Summer is here, and while you deserve some well-earned PTO and family time, staying up to date on nutrition doesn't have to take a vacation. Introducing Summer Shorts, a mini-series from the Exam Room Nutrition Podcast. This summer, each episode will tackle a single nutrition question in under 15 minutes, giving you the latest insights you need without sacrificing those summer cookouts. So grab your sunglasses and join me, Colleen Sloan, for our summer learning with Summer Shorts. The topic for this week comes from my daughter, who's 14 and recently developed a taste for coffee. But we're not talking about your basic cup of black coffee. We're talking all the bells and whistles, the bougie, sugary, whipped cream extravaganza you see at Starbucks. She was out with her friends enjoying some of this sweet nectar from heaven, which is what I like to call coffee, and one of her friends told her that coffee stunts her growth. So naturally, she came to me concerned and wanting to know if this was true. So today, I'll unpack coffee and whether it stunts growth or if this is just an old wives' tale. Plus, we'll discuss the benefits and side effects of caffeine in general. Now, if you work with athletes or your child is in sports, stay tuned for September because I'll be doing a month-long series on sports nutrition and the use of caffeine for sport performance. So make sure you follow this podcast on your favorite podcast player so you'll get notified of every new episode. Now, to prepare for this topic, I ran a poll on LinkedIn asking what age you started drinking coffee. By the way, if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, you should. We have a lot of fun over there. I'll link to it in the show notes below. So 6% of you said you started drinking coffee under age 10, 18% at 12 to 16 years old, and 60% of you said 18 to 25 years old. Now, 16% of you don't drink coffee, which is insane to me, but I digress. I learned that coffee drinking is part of many cultures and many family traditions. Abby said that her grandparents from Louisiana would make coffee milk to eat with breakfast, which was mostly milk and a little splash of coffee. I think that's so cute. Coffee is actually the second most consumed liquid in the world, only second to water. Caffeine is naturally found in coffee beans, cacao beans, cola nuts, guarana berries, and tea leaves, including yerba mate. Now, beyond the obvious sources like coffee, tea, and soda, hidden sources of caffeine exist in energy drinks, chocolate milk, certain over-the-counter medications, and even some supplements. So where did the argument that coffee stunts your growth come from anyway? Now, we can't pinpoint an exact cause of this myth, but this idea may have come from the misconception that coffee causes osteoporosis, which can be associated with loss of height. But blaming coffee for height loss due to osteoporosis doesn't really make sense because coffee does not cause osteoporosis, and osteoporosis does not routinely make you short. Furthermore, these early studies were often performed on elderly people who are already calcium deficient. Another source to this misconception might stem from an advertising campaign in 1895 for Postum, a caffeine-free roasted grain beverage marketed as a coffee alternative. C.W. Post, the creator of Postum and the Post cereal company, believed that caffeine was responsible for many health issues, so his ads were especially negative, claiming that coffee was as harmful as morphine, cocaine, and nicotine. So I looked up some of these ads, and one of them from 1910 says, "Begin early. Children brought up on Postum are free from the evil effects of caffeine, the habit-forming drug in coffee and tea." Talk about the power of advertising and fear-mongering. I'm actually going to be sharing some of these ads and my thoughts on them in my newsletter this week. So if you aren't already subscribed, you can sign up at examroomnutrition.com/sign up. It's totally free and full of valuable content. The final thought of where this misconception started is the relationship between caffeine and sleep. We know that drinking caffeine before bed can disrupt sleep patterns, which are important for children and teenagers to develop properly. Sleep helps the body produce growth hormones that help people grow taller. So if they aren't sleeping, they aren't growing. But this is kind of a weak argument if you ask me. So let's look a little closer at coffee. Due to its potential pharmaceutical activity, coffee can be considered as a nutraceutical. It's a powerful antioxidant and contains polyphenols. These compounds may play a role in preventing several chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, depression, and caffeine also increases mental and physical performance. Still, some side effects can include insomnia, jumpiness or anxiety, nausea, lack of appetite, headache, possibly tremor and dizziness, and a disruption in heart rhythms. Caffeine intake in minors could lead to severe health consequences, especially if ingested with other substances like taurine, which is commonly found in energy drinks. And the FDA estimates toxic effects like seizures can be observed with rapid consumption of 1,200 milligrams of caffeine, or if someone consumes 0.15 tablespoons of pure caffeine. Many studies prove there is no serious medical risk associated with coffee drinking, and it is actually beneficial for most people. Coffee lovers, rejoice! So, if you haven't figured it out by now, no, coffee will not stunt growth. But is it safe for kids to drink? Now, when we look at coffee, what we're actually considering is the caffeine content and whether that is safe or not. Currently, there are no federal guidelines for caffeine intake regarding children in the U.S., but the American Academy of Pediatrics discourages caffeine consumption for kids. But for reference, for healthy adults, the FDA recommends 400 milligrams a day as an amount that is generally considered safe. However, there is a wide variation in how sensitive people are to the effects of caffeine. Furthermore, the amount of caffeine in different beverages varies due to where the coffee beans and tea leaves were grown and processed and how the beverage product is prepared. Now, at this time, the general consensus among pediatricians is to advise against caffeine for children under 12 and against any use of energy drinks for all children and teens. For those 12 to 18 years old, caffeine should be limited to 100 milligrams a day. Now, I'm based in the US, but I know some of you are from other countries, so I looked up some other guidelines, and Canada actually does have some basic guidelines with daily limits on caffeine. So for ages 4 to 6, they recommend about 45 milligrams a day, which is about half a cup of coffee. Ages 7 to 9, 62.5 milligrams. Ages 10 to 12, 85 milligrams. And for adolescents, anywhere between 85 and 100 milligrams. A 12-ounce can of caffeinated cola typically contains 30 to 40 milligrams of caffeine. An 8-ounce cup of green or black tea has 30 to 50 milligrams, and an 8-ounce cup of coffee is closer to 80 to 100 milligrams. An espresso is about 80 milligrams. A bar of chocolate has between 10 and 25 milligrams, and caffeine in energy drinks can range from 40 to 250 milligrams per 8 ounces. Now, the European Food Safety Authority, in its scientific opinion on caffeine paper, suggested that caffeine intakes of 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, or about 200 milligrams per day, does not raise safety concerns for the general healthy adult population. And this dosing may also be applied to children because the caffeine clearance rate in children and adolescents is at least that of adults. Sure, science has disproved the claim that coffee stunts growth, and children can safely consume moderate amounts of caffeine. But you need to consider what other ingredients are in that caffeinated drink that the child is consuming. Most of these drinks tend to have not only the caffeine, but also really high amounts of sugar, cream, and whipped cream. They're more like desserts and can contribute to excess sugar and calorie consumption if consumed often. So just for fun, I looked up my daughter's favorite drink from Starbucks, the Caramel Ribbon Crunch Frappuccino, which has 470 calories, 60 grams of sugar, and 85 milligrams of caffeine. That's for a grande size. 60 grams of sugar is 15 teaspoons of sugar. Yikes. So it's a good thing she only has it as an occasional treat. Now, just for reference, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend less than 25 grams of added sugar per day for children over 2, which is about 6 teaspoons. So my daughter's coffee drink is more than twice of the recommended amount of sugar in a day. So my final thoughts, Coffee does not stunt growth and can safely be consumed for most children and teens in small amounts. Height is largely determined by the height of parents and the quality of the diet and overall health while growing. So if you do enjoy coffee, pay attention to the sugar content of those tasty beverages. Now, some people even add in protein to their coffee in a trend called Proffee to give it a little nutrition boost. And I wrote about this trend on my blog, so you can check the show notes for that. And I've included plenty of resources for you to check out later. All right, my friend, that's it for today. As a reminder, wear your sunscreen, drink your water, and eat more fiber. I'll see you next week for another Summer Shorts.